I loved They Slash Them. I loved how it had
Oh,
a
thank you.
slow build up to the slasher elements. So I was
Mm.
wondering, did you kind of want to show the horrors of the conversion camp and the real life parallels before diving into those slasher elements?
Yeah, it's I think good dramatic structure to sort of like build your horror, build your suspense as you go. And the thing that's so unique about this so-called conversion therapy is that yes, on one hand, it's physically traumatic. There's forced marches and sleep deprivation, but there's also psychological gamesmanship that's going on that's very insidious. So I wanted to really take the time to show how these characters, our antagonists, our villains, gradually try to like chip away at the identity of these of our campers.
Definitely. And, obviously, these conversion camps are unfortunately a very real thing. So the choice to set this horror movie here, and horror as a genre has always been queer coded, it feels both fitting and like it could maybe be a bit divisive. So I was wondering, can you talk a little bit about how this story came to you, how you kind of developed it?
Yeah, it's been brewing in me for a long time because when I was a kid, the only queer characters in movies were in horror movies were victims or jokes or mostly non-existent. And that always bothered me. And as you know, horror films have a very complicated relationship with gender and with sexual preference. And so I wanted to write something exactly about that dealt directly with gender in horror. And so I chose the slasher movie genre, the most reviled of all horror movie genres, because I love it and I thought it was exciting and it seemed to make sense to me. And I wanted to write a movie where the queer characters were the heroes. The movie that, like, when I was like 14, I wish this movie has existed. I wish I could have looked at like a bunch of queer characters who say, I am gloriously who I am and are heroes because of it.
Definitely. And bringing Kevin onto the movie was such a great parallel. I was talking to him about Friday the 13th a bit. So I was wondering, did you write this role with him in mind and kind of wanted to flip that on its head a little bit,
Well,
considering his old role?
yeah, it really didn't have to do with the Friday the 13th. It had to do with sort of Kevin's sort of body of work. Because when I started writing, and I normally don't write with actors in mind, Kevin just kept coming into my mind. His voice, his personality, because Kevin has that like magical ability, as you know, to go from utterly charming to completely icy scary, like on a dime. And that's what the character has to do. And
Yeah.
so I couldn't get Kevin out of my heart when I was writing it. And thank goodness he agreed. The fact that he was in the original Friday the 13th movie is like the cherry on the sundae as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I mean, I love how you even had like a little nod to it with mentioning Camp Crystal Lake and everything. I thought that was hilarious. um, but yeah, getting into a little bit of the plot, we can stay away from spoilers, but I was curious, was the killer always who you intended it to be, or were there kind of different options there about how you wanted they slash them to end?
No, the killer was always the killer, and the killer's motivation was always the same. Along the way, working on the script, obviously different sort of suspense sequences came up, different sort of ways to tease the audience in terms of who the killer might be became apparent. So it became a sort of a mosaic of complicated clues and false clues and red herrings along the way. But the actual identity and motivation of the killer was there right from the beginning.
Awesome. Well, I didn't see it coming, so
Oh, good. Well, I'm
but
glad.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I loved the movie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.